You know that feeling when you type best places to visit in New York and every single video shows you the exact same five towns? Saratoga Springs, Woodstock, Lake Placid, over and over like there's nothing else in this entire state. Well, today we're skipping all of that. We're going somewhere else entirely. Upstate New York has this quiet, almost secretive side to it. Little towns tucked between lakes and mountains that most tourists drive right past without even realizing what they're missing. Some of these places don't even have a traffic light. One of them still gets its drinking water straight from a lake so clean you could drink it without filtering it. Another one is basically a hidden fantasy movie set carved right into rock. Stick with me through this entire list because by the time we get to number one, you're going to want to book a trip immediately, maybe even before this video ends. And hey, if you've ever driven through a small town and thought, why isn't this place famous? Drop it in the comments because we might feature it in a future video. All right, let's get into it. Starting with a town so quiet it genuinely feels like time forgot about it. Number 7, Speculator, Hamilton County. Let's start with a place that most New Yorkers themselves have never even heard of, and honestly, that's exactly why it belongs on this list. Speculator sits deep in the Adirondack Mountains right beside Lake Pleasant, and just the name alone makes you curious enough to look it up. Nobody's entirely sure how the town got its name, but locals like to joke that it's because of the incredible views you get from the surrounding hills. And once you see photos of this place, you start to understand why that story sticks around. This isn't a town with big attractions, flashy signs, or crowded main streets pulling your attention in 10 directions. It's the complete opposite of that. It's small, it's slow, and honestly, that slowness is the entire point of visiting. During the summer months, the lake turns into this perfect little playground for swimming, kayaking, and fishing, and the water stays calm enough that even complete beginners feel comfortable getting out on it without any nerves. If you're someone who genuinely loves hiking, the trails around Speculator wind through some of the most peaceful forest you'll find anywhere in the state. The kind where you can walk for 20 minutes without hearing another human voice, just birds and wind moving through the trees. That might sound boring to some people scrolling through their phone right now, but if you've ever felt completely overwhelmed by city noise, traffic, and constant notifications, this place is basically therapy without the price tag. Winter here turns into a completely different experience too, with cross-country skiing and snowmobiling drawing in a small but incredibly loyal crowd of outdoor lovers who come back year after year. What really makes Speculator worth the drive isn't one single landmark you can point to, it's the entire atmosphere wrapped around the town. You wake up in the morning, you see mountains rising on one side and calm water sitting on the other, and there's nobody honking, nobody rushing anywhere, nobody standing in line for coffee. Local diners still know their regulars by first name, and you won't find a single chain coffee shop trying to rush you in and out in under 5 minutes. If you're planning a trip here, give yourself at least 2 full days. Because the real beauty of Speculator only starts to sink in once you actually slow down enough to match its pace. It's not flashy, it's not loud, and it's definitely not on anyone's typical bucket list, but it might genuinely be one of the most underrated pockets of this entire state, and that's exactly why it earns the 7th spot on our list today. Number 6, Coxsackie, Greene County. Moving along the Hudson River now, we land in Coxsackie, a village that's been quietly having what a lot of locals are calling a comeback moment lately. For a long time, this town flew completely under the radar, constantly overshadowed by bigger, more marketed Hudson Valley names, but more and more people are starting to catch on. And once you actually see the waterfront here, you'll understand exactly why. Reed Street runs right along the water, and the views from this stretch genuinely stop people mid-scroll whenever photos show up online, which says a lot in an age where everyone's seen basically everything already. There's something about watching the Hudson River roll quietly by from an almost empty street with barely a crowd in sight that feels like you've stumbled onto a secret nobody bothered sharing. The historic district adds another layer to why this town deserves attention, packed with 19th century brick buildings that locals have clearly put real effort into maintaining over the decades. Walking through it, you get this strong sense of permanence, like the town has weathered a lot of change over the years and is still standing tall, still quietly proud of its own story without needing to shout about it. Coxsackie isn't trying to be some polished tourist trap either, and that's honestly a huge part of its charm. You won't find souvenir shops competing for attention on every single corner or overpriced cafes charging double just because tourists are around. Instead, you'll find real family run bakeries, small independent businesses, and people who are genuinely happy to stop and chat if you ask them about the town's past. If you time your visit right, especially catching golden hour in the early evening, the river turns this incredible shade of orange and gold that photographers dream about capturing. It's an easy stop if you're already doing a Hudson Valley road trip, but honestly, it deserves more than just a quick 5-minute pass through on your way somewhere else. Give it a full afternoon if you can, walk the entire riverfront at your own pace, grab a coffee or a meal from a local spot, and just take in how different this town feels compared to the more commercialized, tourist-heavy places nearby. Coxsackie proves something important. You don't need to be famous to be genuinely beautiful. You just need the right people to finally notice you, and right now, more and more travelers finally are. Number 5, Lewiston, Niagara County. Now we're heading west, close to the Canadian border, to a town that sits right on the edge of the Niagara River. Lewiston is one of those places that makes you wonder how it managed to stay under the radar for so long, especially considering how close it actually sits to one of the most visited natural wonders on the entire planet. This town goes all the way back to the early 1800s, making it one of the oldest settlements in western New York. And you can genuinely feel that deep history the moment you start walking down its main streets. The buildings here haven't been torn down and replaced with generic modern storefronts like you see in so many other towns chasing quick growth. They've been carefully preserved instead, and there's an obvious pride in that preservation that gives the whole town a certain quiet dignity, rather than feeling stuffy or overly staged like a museum exhibit. Center Street is really where the entire town comes alive, lined with local art galleries, small independent shops, and restaurants that actually feel like they genuinely want you there, not like you're just another tourist passing through for a quick photo before moving on. On a lazy weekend afternoon, walking down this street with absolutely no fixed plan is honestly one of the more relaxing things you can do anywhere in this part of the state. If you happen to visit during the warmer months, you might even catch a concert or outdoor event happening at Art Park, which is a full performing arts venue right in the middle of town that locals genuinely love and consistently show up to support. That kind of community energy is really hard to fake, and you can feel it almost the moment you arrive and start walking around. What really sets Lewiston apart from other river towns is the way history and food come together so naturally here. This is a town where you can learn about its past over a slow breakfast and then walk it all off along the riverfront in that same single morning without needing to plan much at all. If you're already planning a trip out to Niagara Falls, and let's be honest, most people driving through this exact area do yourself a real favor and set aside an extra hour or two specifically for Lewiston. It's close enough to make an easy detour, but different enough in feel and pace that it ends up feeling like a completely separate trip entirely. Number 4, Saranac Lake, Franklin County. Everybody already knows Lake Placid. It's practically a household name at this point, thanks to decades of Olympic history and constant tourism marketing pushing it forward. But right next door sits Saranac Lake, a town with just as much genuine charm and a small fraction of the crowds, which honestly makes it the smarter choice if you actually want to relax instead of fighting for parking all day. Saranac Lake has this fascinating history as a health resort back in the 19th century, where people traveled here specifically hoping the fresh mountain air could help cure illnesses like tuberculosis. Looking back now, it probably wasn't the air alone doing all that healing. It was more likely the calm surroundings and noticeably slower pace of life that genuinely helped people start feeling better. And interestingly, that same calming effect still works on visitors showing up today. The Saranac River cuts directly through the middle of downtown, giving you incredibly easy access to kayaking and fishing without needing to drive anywhere at all. You can literally step out of a small cafe and be out on the water within just a few minutes. No long drive, no complicated planning required. Hiking trails nearby lead you up toward Mount Baker, offering some genuinely rewarding views without requiring you to be an experienced climber or own expensive gear. This is a town clearly built for people who want real outdoor adventure but don't want to deal with the heavy traffic and packed parking lots that come attached to more famous mountain towns nearby. Downtown Saranac Lake also has a nice, healthy mix of local shops, small art galleries, and restaurants, giving it a slightly livelier feel compared to some of the tinier towns on this list, while still holding on to that genuine, small town warmth underneath it all. It strikes this rare, hard to find balance between having enough going on to keep you entertained and still feeling genuinely peaceful the entire time. If you've ever found yourself torn between visiting Lake Placid or somewhere a bit quieter nearby, Saranac Lake gives you almost identical natural beauty without needing to fight crowds for a parking spot or a decent table at dinner. It's honest proof that sometimes the town sitting right next to the famous one ends up being the far better trip. Before we keep moving down this list, if you're genuinely enjoying it so far, go ahead and hit that like button right now. It truly helps this video reach more people who would love discovering these exact same places just like you're doing right this moment. All right, let's keep going because the next few towns on this list are where things start getting seriously stunning. Number 3, Watkins Glen, Schuyler County. Now we're stepping into the Finger Lakes region, and Watkins Glen might honestly be the most visually dramatic entry on this entire list. Often called the heart of the Finger Lakes, this town sits right where Seneca Lake begins, but the real star of the show here isn't actually the lake itself. It's what's hiding just behind Main Street, tucked away, almost out of sight. Watkins Glen State Park contains a trail that genuinely feels unreal the very first time you walk through it. Over roughly a mile and a half, a creek drops a full 400 feet through a narrow canyon lined with 200-foot shale cliffs, threading past 19 separate waterfalls along the entire route. What makes it even more impressive is the stonework built directly into the trail itself, tunnels carved straight into solid rock, arched stone bridges, and spiral staircases that were constructed decades ago and somehow still hold up perfectly well today. Walking through it feels less like a simple hike and more like exploring some hidden fantasy movie location, except this one is completely real and open to the public for free during the season, which runs from mid-May all the way through late October. If you want to avoid the heavier crowds, arriving before 9 in the morning makes a massive difference, especially on busy summer weekends when parking near North Franklin Street tends to fill up incredibly fast. Beyond the Gorge Trail itself, the town holds a sleepy, easygoing charm, sitting quietly along the banks of Seneca Lake without much fuss. It's the kind of place where you can spend your entire morning hiking through waterfalls and then spend your afternoon simply relaxing by the water without ever needing to drive far between the two. Watkins Glen also carries a bit of a reputation among car enthusiasts thanks to its long racing history, adding a completely unexpected layer to the town beyond just its natural beauty and scenery. Between the gorge, the lake, and the relaxed small-town atmosphere sitting around it all, Watkins Glen manages to pack an incredible amount of variety into one relatively compact area, which is exactly why it comfortably lands in the top 3 spots on this entire list. Number 2, Aurora, Cayuga County. This next one might genuinely be the most surprising entry on the whole list because Aurora is truly tiny, smaller than 1 single square mile in total, and it doesn't even have one traffic stoplight anywhere. Yet somehow, this little village sitting along Cayuga Lake manages to feel more special than towns 10 times its actual size. There's something almost magical about walking through a place with 0 traffic signals, 0 rush, and nothing really pulling your attention except the calm lake and the historic buildings surrounding you on every side. The Aurora Village and Wells College Historic District is officially recognized on the National Register of Historic Places, and walking through it genuinely feels like stepping directly into a different century, minus all the usual inconveniences that would come with actually living back then. One of the real standout features here is the Inns of Aurora, a collection of beautifully restored historic homes that have been carefully turned into a full boutique hotel experience. It's the kind of place where simply staying overnight becomes part of the entire experience itself, rather than just being a place where you sleep between activities. Right from the village, you can access Cayuga Lake directly for kayaking, boating, or simply casting a fishing line off the shoreline, all without needing to drive anywhere else first. And if wine happens to be your thing, the Cayuga Lake Wine Trail runs incredibly close by, with several vineyards offering sweeping views out over the water that genuinely rival anything you'd find in far more famous wine regions across the country. What makes Aurora so remarkable in the end is how effortlessly peaceful the entire place feels from the moment you arrive. There's no pressure to rush through some long checklist of attractions, no need to hurry off to the next stop on a tightly packed itinerary. You simply exist inside this small, beautiful bubble for a day or two, and somehow that quiet simplicity ends up being exactly what most people actually needed from a trip like this in the first place. If you've been feeling genuinely burnt out lately and need somewhere real to disconnect from everything, Aurora might just be the closest thing New York has to an actual reset button, and that's precisely why it earns the number 2 spot on today's list. We're almost at number 1 now, and trust me, it's absolutely worth the wait. But before we get there, if this video is already giving you ideas for your next weekend getaway, go ahead and subscribe right now, because we're covering hidden gems just like these across the entire country, not only in New York State. Number 1, Skaneateles, Onondaga County. And here we are, the town that takes the very top spot on our list, Skaneateles. And yes, it's pronounced Skaneateles, which trips up almost everyone the very first time they try saying it out loud. This town sits right at the edge of Skaneateles Lake. And here's a fact that genuinely surprises most people hearing it for the first time. The water here is so clean that it supplies completely unfiltered drinking water straight to the city of Syracuse. Just take a second to think about that. Water clean enough to drink directly without needing to be filtered at all beforehand. That single fact alone tells you everything you really need to know about how pristine this lake actually remains. The downtown area itself is incredibly walkable, lined with boutique shops, small art galleries, and restaurants that blend genuine small-town warmth together with surprisingly excellent food. The John D. Barrow Art Gallery is definitely worth a stop too, showcasing historical paintings closely tied to the surrounding area. And in a fun little twist, you can actually borrow a piece from the gallery to display in your own home for a while, which is such a unique touch that you rarely see offered anywhere else at all. Down by the water, Cliff Park gives you a community dock, a dedicated swimming area, and a peaceful gazebo, making it the absolute perfect spot to just sit quietly and watch the lake for an hour without any real agenda pulling you elsewhere. If you happen to be visiting in July, you might even catch the Antique and Classic Boat Show, which pulls in more than 10,000 visitors every year just to watch beautifully restored wooden boats parade slowly across the lake, a sight that genuinely feels pulled straight out of another era entirely. For anyone wanting a slightly more active day out, there's also a 32-mile biking route looping around the wider area, giving you sweeping views of the lake and the surrounding countryside the entire way through. And if you're looking to properly relax after all that walking or biking around, the Mirbeau Inn and Spa recently earned a 4-star award, making it one of the more genuinely upscale stays found anywhere on this entire list. Perfect for anyone wanting just a bit of quiet luxury mixed into their small-town getaway experience. Skaneateles manages to pull off something genuinely rare among small towns. It balances natural beauty, walkability, great food, deep history, and a touch of real luxury, all inside one small, incredibly easy-to-navigate town. It's not overrun with tourists at every corner, but it's polished enough that everything about visiting feels effortless once you actually arrive. Out of every single town on this entire list, this is the one that feels most genuinely like an actual paradise. The kind of place you visit for one weekend and end up thinking about for months afterward, wondering when you can go back. And that officially wraps up our list of 7 upstate New York towns that genuinely feel like hidden paradises. From the quiet mountain calm sitting over in Speculator all the way to the polished lakeside charm found in Skaneateles, every single one of these places proves that you don't actually need to travel across the entire world to find somewhere that feels completely different from your everyday life. Sometimes it's really just a few hours outside a city you already know well. If you made it all the way through this video, thank you so much for sticking around. That genuinely means a lot to this channel. Let me know down in the comments which of these 7 towns you'd want to visit first, or if there's some other upstate New York gem we somehow missed along the way. Because there are honestly plenty more of these hidden spots out there still waiting to be discovered. And if you want more videos exactly like this one, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you don't miss the next hidden gem list. Because trust me, this is really just the beginning of what we've got planned.